Hello, hello. I am drinking a blueberry banana soy milk vegan shake, and it's very, very good. It's delicious. Got the blueberry vegan shake. It's good. The color, it's gorgeous. And I got my blue putty. Matching my shirt. So it's been a while that I have uploaded a video to Nikki Loves Dogs. Try to upload a video that I made before we went on the vacation. Try to upload that from my Kindle Fire, but it didn't upload onto YouTube. So the Kindle Fire is not compatible with Google and YouTube. So, and I don't know what to do about this. It's very frustrating, consumer unfriendly. I already cried over that. I wrote letters to Jeff Bezos. First they told me that they're not in good standing with Google. Then the next time they said, you're not writing from the right account. So now I wrote a third letter from the right account, and I said this is false advertisement, what they're doing. When they say that the Kindle Fire tablet is comparable to the Apple iPad. When they say that publicly, that's a very bold statement, you know. That's much more bold than anything that Elon Musk has ever claimed and said. But they want to shut him up. They want to shut Elon Musk up. He's not even allowed to say something sweet and cute. Not even allowed to say to Jeff Bezos, stop teasing us, you know. He probably meant in a kind of sweet, dorky, cheek pinching way, you know. So in totally innocent, you know. No, he's not allowed to say that. But Jeff Bezos can do false advertisement? Okay, all right. It's double standard to the fullest degree, right? Isn't that illegal? so whatever. So, but that's not good. It's definite. That's not pro-consumer. That's definitely not pro-consumer tactics. Definitely not. Not everyone can afford an Apple iPad. And I don't support Apple because they have done cruel public relations things to animals. So I will never support Apple. I'll never support Sony because they've done cruel animal public relations advertisements in the past. That ends it for me for good with any company. If they do anything cruel to an animal, I'm done with that company for life. I'm not even going to go back if they change their habits. So far I am in support of Google, Tesla, and Jeff Bezos, but I reserve my right to criticize people when I think they're not doing very well with they're not following into their promises. They are not walking their talk. So, and I think we do have the right to say something about it. So anyway, it took me a long time to recover from our vacation, in quotation marks. We went on about a week, I don't know, 5, 6 day vacation with the van. It was harsh. God, it was harsh. Oh man, it was harsh. We went to a campground and I was so afraid there that I cried for hours. Paul had to hold my hand. I cried and cried and cried out of fear. That's how paranoid I have become. It's not funny. Fear is not a picnic. Fear is the worst emotion there is. It's the most stressful and the most immune depressing, suppressing mental state there is. I read reports, scientific reports that have stated that fear is the #1 illness causing agent. And stress, just simply stress. Stress is fear, it's caused by fear. It's worse than even than any of these other poisons and agents out there. It's the worst. Stress is the worst because that also causes lack of sleep, and it causes fight or flight syndrome. It causes the immune system to slow down because the body's functions, they become focused on fight or flight. Adrenaline is being released. Cortisol is being released. Those are all very, very stressful and very harsh hormones and chemicals and neurotransmitters that are they are very harsh. They're very immune depressing, and that they're just very stressful for the whole system. So, but I worked my way through with meditation. I worked my way through without running away with something. I didn't take any substances. I didn't do gambling. I didn't distract myself. I didn't escape into anything. What I did and what I wanted to do is I wanted to stay and sit and lie down with that emotion. And Paul held my hand, and that made me go through this, and it gave me support. That's an enormously powerful support to hold someone's hand. And or foot massage and conversations, allowing someone to talk about it, without. And Paul tends to come up with solutions and with rationalizations, and out of his own fear likes to rationalize one out of that feeling, almost like you're not allowed to be in that feeling. That's his own problem, that's his own pain. Okay, so I know how to view all of this from above. So I don't take it personally in that way that I think that he's not gonna allow me to feel my feeling. I know what he is feeling, but I reserve myself the right to feel whatever I want to feel anyway at any given time. And I will cry no matter what. And I've done it in LA. One time there was a guy, I talked about this before, I was driving my Suzuki Samurai that always quit, and it was hard to drive, and I had to go onto a parking lot because I was in such a bad mental state. And then a guy behind me honking, and they were so rude in LA, the people driving, so much road rage. And I stopped the car and I just cried. And the guy comes up real mad that I was crying. I didn't bother him, I was keeping to myself. But he comes up to me and to my window and says, "Do I need to call an ambulance?" And I said, "No, because I'm just crying. That's all I'm doing. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not I'm not collapsing. I'm not hurting myself. I'm just simply sitting here crying. That's all I'm doing." And that's what I was thinking. It's obviously triggering the shit out of that guy. But you know what? That's not my problem. I'm gonna cry when I'm gonna cry. And I don't care if that triggers the shit out of anyone. And you shouldn't care either whether that triggers someone. You have the right to cry, whether you are a man or a woman. You have the right to cry. It doesn't matter how old you are. We are mammals, okay? We have feelings and we have immune systems, and it helps to cry to release toxins and to release that tension and to calm the nervous system down and bring it back to normal. And it also releases endorphins that are very vital and important. So yeah, my vacation consisted of fear, of going through the fear, of crying, of expressing the emotions without running away. Our vacations are they're my shamanic school. Every vacation is a crash course of a week of shamanic learning, healing, and transforming myself towards empowerment and complete mental clarity. That's what comes out of it if we don't escape it, if we don't run off from the uncomfortable feelings that come up. That's what happens. So when we came back, I had a good laugh. We came first to the other house, as we always do. And I said to Paul, there's this old joke in Germany. They made fun of the Soviet Union. My parents told that joke many times. You know, someone from the Soviet Union who was able to live there, as some comedian, he probably came up with that joke, and he said there was a raffle and they had 3 prizes to give away to people. So the first prize was 1 week of Soviet Union vacation in the Soviet Union. Second prize, 2 weeks of Soviet Union. And third prize, 3 weeks of Soviet Union. I hope you get the joke. So, with other words, so I don't know if everyone gets the joke, but, you know, the less the prize, you know, the longer is the punishment of having to endure. the Soviet Union. I never kind of really, I thought the joke itself had potential, but the content of it, the target of that joke, I never thought it was that fair. Personally, my family, they were against the Soviet Union, so they thought it was funny. I personally did not think that it was, I didn't I didn't have any negative feelings against the Soviet Union. I've been there a few times as a child, visiting my great grandmother, and they had amazing caramel candies from Russia that I'll never forget. And my great grandmother was super, and the people there were super in that house, and everyone was super nice and civilized in that suburb of Berlin, and that had been taken over by the Soviet Union after the Second World War. And yeah, it was a difficult situation. It was tough, all of this, and people had to work together, but it was also there for a reason. It was there to bring people together. It was there to teach people to learn how to cooperate with one another. And then after all, nobody had teeth missing. No one had to endure dentures, indentations, because everyone was taken care of. They had their teeth done. Everyone, no matter what they did or how much money they had, it was socialized. School was socialized. Everyone had the chance to become an academic. Most people did. Yeah, it had its plus. And the result that came out of the Soviet Union is an enormous avalanche of amazing brains that came out of East Germany and Russia and the other East Bloc countries. Enormous brains, enormous virtuoses of violin, piano, mathematics, incredible IQ, knowledge, skill, even sports. Yeah, so you have plus and minus. Overall, we understand that nothing works through force. And that's why it came down. It came crashing down. And also mainly with the help of Mikhail Gorbachev, and who was one of the best political leaders that have ever existed on this planet. He deserved all the prizes in the world, all the peace prizes, all the awards of peacemaking and diplomacy and vision for the future, making the world a better place. An amazing man. And his wife is amazing too. So yeah, then came crashing down. What came out of this, what's happening now, is worse than it is. The state they are in right now is worse than it was during the Soviet Union, inside of the Soviet Union. It was horrible that they kept people there by force. It was horrible they shot people at the border. Horrible. But what's happening right now, the state that they're in right now, it's much worse. Okay, there are the people. They don't even know how to fend their ways through life. so they don't even know how to survive. No survival skills. That wasn't taught. So, and that's wrong. That needs to be taught. So there was no more governmental support. It's crashed down into a capitalist sort of dictatorship, and similar to China, worse though, I think, politically worse. So, and a lot of people, they just fell right through. There was no more social network to hold them. They fell right through that grid. And the children in Russia of today, the teenagers, they're sniffing glue. They're homeless on the street. They are freezing in the winter. The Russian winters are ice cold. I saw a documentary on it. It's heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking what's happening. Much worse than it was during the Soviet Union. Much worse. So I'm not a communist. I'm not that much of a socialist. I'm a capitalist, I would say, of some sort. Not in a libertarian sense, not in the conservative, all conservative sense. No. In a common sense that's not common in a rational sense. So capitalism in a rational sense, a socialized market structure with some caps to the top, with some restrictions, with some restrictions on oppression and exploitation. We have to have it, otherwise people will just take advantage without end. And we see this in Mexico, we see this all over the planet. We see it in the United States. Wherever there is no restriction, people take full advantage. They will exploit animals and humans. North Korea. So it's horrific. So the first day on our vacation, maybe I'll make another video about it because I made some film movie clips with my other camera out there by that creek. Maybe I'll show that, make a video about that. That takes some editing, so I'll have to take some time to do that one. So maybe I'll make a brief video on that and explain things and just tinker around and fiddle around with it and practice a little bit of video editing. So I just got this free video editor. I want to try this out, see how that goes. I also want to make a 3-hour movie. I planned on doing this. So a movie that is a philosophical, poetic character. So a little bit theatrical, theatrical, poetic, philosophical, spooky, romantic, E.T., outerworldly. Something like this I wanted to make. Something that was a very strong message. So I don't know exactly how to make it, but I will figure it out. I have some ideas on it. So just collecting ideas, writing things down here and there, and getting something, making something with that. Something simple, not complex video editing. I don't want to get into that. Not interested. I want to make a movie that is philosophical and has something to say. So it's a lot of fun to do this because you put all of your creativity into it and it feels good to do something creative, something that you are compelled to do, something that where art dictates to you to do it, where it comes like from you, but it also comes from outside of you. It's from the infinite cosmos. So art dictates in that way. So when it just feels like this is what it has, how it has to be, where there's no more choice, it's like that's what Jiddu Krishnamurti always says. When when there's mental clarity and attunement, there's no more choice. Then there is only that what is in that moment, and you follow that path. Esther Hicks called it when you come to that place where the next move becomes blatantly obvious. So that's the same thing. That's art dictating to us. And it can show up in many different forms. You know, if we're attuned, if we are in tune with the infinite cosmos, then we make something happen that serves all life. So there's always synchronicity in the infinite cosmos. And it's amazing that synchronicity is just amazing. Just amazing. When things happen at a fraction of a moment that you could have missed but you didn't, and it is completely in tune with something you did a week ago or a couple of days ago or said or seen. It's a total synchronicity of energetic images and collaborations and energetic co-creational streams that come together suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere and seemingly unrelated also. Not even the slightest bit connected in the 3D world where, you know, the one didn't call the other on the phone or anything. The other two people come together that have never seen each other before, and yet they come together in a synchronicity stream, and that's just marvelous. I see that happening a lot. I see it happening a lot with Teal Swan's videos and the subject she discusses that is in synchronicity with what I have been thinking about and putting my mind on. Questions that I have asked. Sometimes I ask her the questions, but she gets bombarded with so many people, she doesn't see these individual questions, I don't think. So after we went to the creek, and I'm not going to say where it is, I can't, where I was so afraid, then the next day driving through desert communities, high hills, mountains, forests, different climate zones. We slept in the desert, we slept in a wildlife refuge. And there I saw, first of all, my brain started to completely relax there. I could see for thousands of miles in every direction in a panoramic view. And at the very outer margins, I saw some mountain ranges like circling around this entire huge lake bed almost, kind of like Death Valley, but it's not in Death Valley. It's similar, but even wider. And so there's a wildlife refuge. There's a lot of water also. And we saw the next day, first of all, we slept good there because it was peaceful and wonderful. We could see the Milky Way. There was no light pollution. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I heard foxes. I heard owls, frogs, hot spring birds during the day, and it was gorgeous. There were pelicans, there were all kinds of birds because they didn't allow hunting in this. I'm sure some people probably break the rules, but there's, in general, there's less hunting. That's why there are more animals, and the whole planet would be like this if there were no humans. The whole planet would be thriving with life and abundance, like a paradise. But then the next day I saw, with horror, I saw that the agricultural businesses around that area, they pump the water to them, the natural water. They use it, they pollute it with pesticides, with cow manure. They don't even clean it very much. I don't know what kind of filtration system they use, but they pump that back into those natural creeks. And the water that comes out of those pipes, really large pipes like this big, brown sewage water gushing out of that, back into those creeks, into those canals that have been built by people. And the birds, they have to drink that water filled with toxins and manure, poisonous, dirty, filthy. It was so shocking to see. I wrote a letter to the governor when we came back. I don't know what he can do about it, but I hope he will do something about this, because this is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable to use pesticides, absolutely unacceptable. It's like, it's people cutting their own throat. It's killing people, and they don't put A and B together. One time, I said to a guy who was pumping pesticides into a tree, I guess they wanted to, I don't know, they wanted to get rid of some trees, and there was some kind of like a supposed fungal measure or something, some kind of, there was a fungal disease in oak trees. That fungal disease is there because of pesticides and pollution. So then they kill the trees further with pesticides to eliminate the trees that had been infected. It doesn't help the environment at all. It's just idiotic. It's just like the same. It's the same as the so-called Healthy Forest Initiative that Dick Cheney instated back during his time with George W. Bush. It's the same type of trickery that they play with the public, that the public's very quickly appeased with some kind of title of some kind of measure. And they go, oh yeah, that must be good. No, it's not good. It's not good at all. It's the opposite of good. It's horrific. So one time I think it was in 2010, we had just moved to this house, and I wrote to a guy under that video where he was poisoning trees. I don't know where that guy was, Texas or something. And I just all I did is I copied and pasted. I gave him a quote from an article about pesticides. What happens? What that particular poison that he was using, which is glyphosate, which is Roundup. They also use they have it in different forms. And he was using it like a alien green liquid that he was pumping into a tree. It was hard to see for me, really hard to watch. And so I just gave him that information. Boy, did he get mad. Oh my gosh. He got so mad he would kill me in a second if I was there in person. He would shoot me for sure. He was so mad just for me giving him that information that particular toxin has caused testicular cancer to rise by over 400%. This is a statistical scientific fact. And that was too much for him to take. Because it's not about, oh, let me listen to her, this is dangerous. No, it's about, he's being humiliated. That's all he can see. He cannot see the warning, he cannot see his own life in danger. He cannot see other lives in danger. All he is immersed in is his ego and egoic reactions to things. That's all he can see. He is blinded by ego. He is ridden by ego, and he is operated by ego, like a puppet. And can only react from ego and his shame and his humiliation. That's all he can see. And then it's a woman who said that, who posted that, and then he had to tell the other, the way he acted there under his own video, the way he commented. First of all, he blocked me, so I couldn't even defend myself against what he said against me after that. And he just completely, he tried to tell everyone that would come to his video that don't listen to her. At that time, that was around in 2010, people weren't allowed to delete comments from other people. So now you can under your own channel. So my comment was there and he wasn't able to delete it, and that made him even more mad. So he had made a complete psychotic dance under his own video with his own comments against me and turning people against me and coming up with ad hominem insults and against the human, against my looks and against my appearance and so on. And that's all he had. That's the only argument he had, which is no argument, of course. And that just, he was so mad, he would have killed me in a second. It was so awful. It was so awful. Pitiful. So, and that's how I see these reactions from people. That's how I study people. That's how I see what's actually happening inside of their minds. And men in particular. And the sexism still going strong, like with this, where they feel like if a woman has more knowledge than they have, and puts them into their place, then they feel like 100 times more humiliated than if a man had done that, and then they have to get even. And then he came to my channel and he threw up his mouse diarrhea under my videos and retaliated against me. Pitiful. It's absolutely awful to see this. So, and I see, that's why I see, the corporate agenda. They use it. They totally use religion. They use the shame that the men have. They use their sexism. They use all of this to manipulate people in their direction. Jesus Christ, 2000 plus years back, was not a supporter of Roundup. Jesus Christ was not a supporter of sexism either. That's a complete misunderstanding in the Christian church or in the conservative circles. Jesus Christ, I heard, was a vegetarian. So people interpret him in any way it serves their own personal agenda. That's how it's being done. No one knows what the real person was like, how he looked like. Certainly didn't look like that French salesman that lived 600 years after Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ obviously did not look like this. He wasn't looking European. He was African, Northern African, like Egyptian, Moroccan, something like this, Persian, very dark, Middle Eastern, an indigo soul, good person, struggling, trying to make things better, trying to understand things, was pro women, helping women. Apparently, Mary Magdalene was his wife. They had, unofficially, they were together. He wasn't a person of conformations. He lived with her. They were together. They had children. They didn't have birth control at that time. So the children became officially announced as his disciples. So that's all. The real story is a lot different than the conservative group of people want to believe. They want to make him into this European guru kind of guy or something. Everything is guided by agendas. It's always an agenda that drives something, that perpetuates something. There's money, greed behind this. There's a corporate agenda behind that. There are several corporate agendas sometimes that have summit meetings that will work together and have a snowball effect on the public, steering the public generally in some certain direction, using their platform, using their specific worldview group, target group, to be manipulated further into another thing, beyond and behind the back of Jesus Christ. Okay. I can tell you this, Jesus Christ does not approve of Monsanto or Bayer or Roundup. I know that for sure. He doesn't approve of libertarianism, of capitalism like it is practiced here, of corporate exploitation, animal exploitation, factory farms. He doesn't approve of that. So, but the next day in the desert out there, even though I was very sad about the sewage water coming out of there and all of this, and a lot of trash there, and agricultural trash that would just be discarded out there and never picked up again in 20 years.